بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
अस्सलामुअलैकुम। आज बुध का दिन है और 9 जून 2021 की तारीख है। हमारी नशरियात sorry, this is supposed to be the English broadcast. I beg your pardon. It is Wednesday, the 9th of June 2021, and this is our series Reflections on the Holy Quran, and it is broadcast number 219 in that series. And we are discussing Surah Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 87. And this is part 4 of that sub-series. Just to remind you that this organization, the Lahore Ahmadiyya Community, also known as Ahmadiyya Anjuman, was created by Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian. And he taught us that although people want to bring another prophet, some people want to bring a new prophet, some want to bring an old prophet, but the Holy Quran says that the Holy Prophet Muhammad was Khatamun Nabiyyin, and the Holy Prophet explained that by saying, La Nabi Abadi, no prophet after me. And that means that no prophet will come, whether it is an old prophet or a new prophet, no one is going to come. And to deal with new situations and difficulties and so on that arise, God will send reformers, mujaddids. And they will not be prophets, although he might speak with them and guide them. And Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad claimed that he was the mujaddid of the 14th century, and his distinction was that the Holy Prophet Muhammad used for him the titles Messiah and Mahdi. And Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Sahib also pointed out that people are fond of calling each other kafirs on differences of opinion. But the Holy Prophet has said that if one reciter of the kalima says to another that you are a heretic, you are not a Muslim, you are out of the fold of Islam, then it is the person saying it who is actually the heretic. His exact word was, heresy returns to the person saying it. So we should regard all reciters of the kalima as Muslims. Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad also pointed out that some people say Ayah Rajam is missing from the Holy Quran, some say Surah Balayat. So basically what they're saying is that part of the prophetic revelation received by the Holy Prophet Muhammad is missing from the Holy Quran. And he said that is incorrect. All the revelation that came to the Holy Prophet is with us in the form of the Holy Quran. Nothing is missing. Similarly, he pointed out that people say that some verses of the Holy Quran have been abrogated. Hazrat Shah Waliullah said that people say over 500 verses of the Holy Quran are abrogated. But I have done research and I have proven that it's not 500 verses, it's only 7 verses of the Holy Quran which are abrogated. But we were taught that no verse of the Holy Quran was, is, or ever shall be abrogated. This is a serious error, fundamental error, I would suggest. And he also taught us that jihad is a fundamental duty of every Muslim. But jihad, as defined by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, not by some other group of people, and when returning from fighting, the Holy Prophet Muhammad said to his companions that from the minor jihad, they're coming back to carry on with the major jihad. And then explained that major jihad is fighting with our own desires, with our own self, as it's called, with a capital S, such as envy, greed, enmity. And there's a list of long one. The list is a long one, and you know it, and I know it. So let us turn to the verse of the Holy Quran that we are looking at today. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولقد آتينا موسى الكتاب وكفينا من بعده بالرسل وآتينا عيسى ابن مريم البينات وأيدناه بروح القدس أفكلما جاءكم رسول بما لا تهوى أنفسكم مستكبرتم ففريقا كذبتم وفريقا تقتلون. And certainly we gave Moses the book, and we sent messengers one after another after him. And we gave Jesus, the son of Mary, clear arguments and strengthened him with the Holy Spirit. Is it then that whenever there comes to you a messenger with what your souls desired not, you were arrogant, and some of you gave the lie to, and others would slay? So today we are going to look at the word. Well, yesterday we looked at Atayna. The next word is Isa. That is obviously a noun. Then Ibn, then Maryam. Maryam is obviously, sorry, I meant Isa is a proper noun, a name. Same as Maryam. So we'll look at Ibn. So let us have a look at the dictionaries and see what we find out. This word occurs in the Holy Quran 184 times, and it is in 9 different forms, 9 words. made using these consonants in that sequence. For example, 80 times Guna and 63 times Ibn and 17 times Banat and 11 times Bana. So, and there are other forms. And in verbal form, it means to build, to make, to construct. Atabnuna bikulli. Chapter 26, verse 128. Do you construct? Ka lubnu. Ka labnu lahu. Bunyadan. Build. Chapter 37, verse 97. So that is one form in which it's used, but it's also used, a derivative from it is used as a noun. For example, the way we have it here, وَآتَيْنَا عِيسَى ابْنَ مَرْيَمَ. So that is not chapter 2, verse 87. But قُلْ مَا أَنْفَقْتُم مِّنْ خَيْرٍ فَلِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبَيْنِ وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. That's about giving charity. Chapter 2, verse 259. And then it's used as وَأَبْنَائِنَا. Chapter 2, verse 246. Our kids. And in many places it's just used as Sabna Maryam. Isa, son of Mary, Jesus, son of Mary, as they say. And then you have other derivatives as noun, such as bina'an, the canopy, a roof, something over your head. So, and the feminine form is used for girls, for banatul ukhti, chapter 4, verse 23, daughters, for banati ummatika, for banati khalika, and the daughters, chapter 33, verse 50. And then, of course, a very interesting use is when it's used to refer to a nation, a whole people, as most commonly the example used is Ya Bani Isra'i lazkuru ni'mati allati an'amtu alaykum. These words are used, I think, perhaps 2 or 3 times in the Holy Quran, certainly twice. Chapter 2, verse 40 and 47. Ya Bani Isra'ila. Again, same words. Chapter 2, verse 122. So that's 3 times. Ya Baniya inna Allah hastafa ya lakumuddin. Oh, my children. Oh, my sons, actually, because children would imply that girls are included. Chapter 2, verse 132. So this is where it's used as children, but you can see it's mostly children of Israel. It's also used as children of Adam. Ya bani Adama an la ta'budu shaytan. Chapter 36, verse 60. O children of Adam. Actually, sometimes when it says, O sons of Adam, it actually means children. Um, it's like in law, when they're talking about crimes being committed and so on. And you get words like and he. That doesn't mean to say that if a woman commits that crime, then she is not going to be punished. It's a kind of generic he, if you see what I mean. Um, Gender free he, you might say. There you are. I've invented something, a gender free pronoun. I suppose you could say that that is it. Now, so if you go to the Holy Quran, you'll see that it means to make, to build, to construct. Like in chapter 78, verse 2, it says that God created 7 heavens above you. وَبَنَيْنَا فَوْقَكُمْ سَبْعًا شِدَادًا. Chapter 78, verse 2. And above you were constructed 7 strong heavens. وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ. Chapter 51, verse 47. We made heavens with our own hands. Now, I mean, obviously, this is not hands as you and I know it. وَالسَّمَاءَ وَمَا بَنَاهَا. Chapter 91, verse 5. And I swear by the heavens and by him who created it. And again, كَأَنَّهُمْ بُنْيَانٌ مَرْفُوضٌ. Chapter 61, verse 9. They are like a impregnable wall. And so on. لُبْنُوا لَهُ بُنْيَانًا. Chapter 37, verse 97. And they said, make a building. Make a building for him. لَهُمْ غُرَفٌ مِّن فَوْقِهَا غُرَفٌ مَبْنِيَّةٌ. Chapter 39, verse 20. And elevated palaces for them. So then, of course, it's used to refer to a son or male children. Ya bunayya la taqfus royaka ala ikhwatika. Chapter 12, verse 1. O son, O my son, do not tell your brothers of your dream. And the famous one, of course, by Hazrat Ibrahim, Ya bunayya inni, or Ya fil manami, inni ya azbahuka. Chapter 37, verse 102. The writing here is not very good, so I apologize for any mispronunciation. My son, I've had a dream in which I'm sacrificing you. So here it's son, literally. But of course, son. So why a building and a son? What is common? What characteristic is common? And you know that you know a building for a building you have to build foundations, and then you have to build walls, and then you have to put a roof over it, and you have to put in windows and doors, and you have to paint it and decorate it and so on. So the building is recognized by the way it's designed and built. So about children, they're not just recognized that, physically X fathered them, but also how they were brought up, what education were they given, what moral and spiritual teachings were imparted to them. Do they serve humanity or do they exploit humanity? And in there's a caste in India called Rajputs, and our grandfather, Hazrat Maulana Abdul Haq Vidyarthi, spent quite a bit of time among them as a missionary, and he used to tell us that there is something among the Rajputs, and it's called Purkha Puja, and there's worship of your ancestors, and that obliged them to lay down their lives, literally lay down their lives to protect the honor of the generations gone by. So when we talk about son, we are talking about everything the father did, not just the physical birth, biological consequences of an action, an act, but after that, how he educated them, how he brought them up, what manners he taught them. And we have this expression, don't we, that someone does something, especially when they're young, when they're in primary school and so on. And what do we say? Didn't your parents teach you any manners? Didn't your father teach you any how to talk to your teachers, or to your elders, or whatever else there is? So all of that is included in this thing. And then, so this is physical son. But then, as a people, Ya Bani Adama, O children of Adam. So, and most frequently, the Holy Quran talks about what do we call it? Bani Israel. And then I'll try and give you a quick run over the Israelites in a minute or two. So, as I said, anything that goes over your head. For example, even that earlier on I read out and said a canopy. So a tent is also falls under the same thing. The word applies to that because obviously a tent doesn't appear ready built. You have to build it. You have to put it together. So it applies to that as well. And but one interesting thing is that the Holy Quran mentions the example of the Israelites so many times. And it was Hazrat Ibrahim's grandson, Yaqub or Jacob, and his title was Israel. So his progeny is called the Israelites. So after that title. And this is quite a common thing that was done in the East. I don't know if it's still done. And that was that you would take the father's profession, which generally would be his title or in his title, and start addressing the kids with that. My grandfather was a doctor, and my father used to be called Doctor. And my father was a lecturer at a college, and people would address me as Professor, and so on. So Jacob, Hazrat Yaqub, he actually lived in Palestine, but we know that Hazrat Yusuf or Joseph went to Egypt and he found prominence and fame there. And when he became established, he then called his father and family um, over to Egypt as well. And they stayed there for 400 years. And of course, in 400 years, they became quite a tribe called the Israelites. But then what happened was they fell from grace and they were being persecuted by the pharaohs. And then, of course, Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, Moses, he appeared and he got them freedom, took them took them back to Palestine and so on. And they got their land and, they got the government and all this kind of thing. But they kept on misbehaving and losing it all. And outside powers kept on invading them and enslaving them and forcing them out of Jerusalem and all this kind of thing, etc. And then eventually they were allowed back into Jerusalem. And when Hazrat Isa, Jesus Christ came, they were living in that area. And of course, when Muslims invaded Jerusalem, it was inhabited by Christians mostly and Jews and so on. And I just want to end by saying that the Holy Prophet's warnings were so accurate and apt. The Holy Quran gave us example after example after example of how Israelites fell from grace because they thought they were being very clever. They were tricking God by coming up with these things. They weren't tricking God, they were just fooling themselves. And the Holy Prophet said that, he warned us about that and he said, but you will do the same thing. And I end with this example that there was it was India then, there was no Pakistan, a reformist, particularly in education, called Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan. And he writes about the sad state of Muslims. And he says that when they turn to their religious leaders, this is the sort of advice they give. And he's written this article. It said, the question of inshallah, God willing. So this man, he writes and he says, well, I'm going to go to court and I'll have to put my hand on the Quran and swear that I'll speak the truth. What should I do? And the Maulana says, well, look at the judge very carefully and see if you can figure out whether he knows about the question of inshallah. If you think he doesn't know about the question of inshallah, then what you should do is put your hand on the Quran, take the oath, and then say boldly, I will say the truth, inshallah. Now you see, you said, if God so wills, I will tell the truth. And then you can proceed to lie. Well, obviously, the fact that you're lying means God didn't want you to tell the truth. And he said, if you think that the judge knows about the question of inshallah, what you do is you put your hand on the Quran, you take the oath, and then you say in a loud voice, I will tell the truth. And then whisper to yourself, inshallah, so that the judge can't hear it. And then proceed to lie. Because you said inshallah. And that means that when you lie, it is God's will that you lie. So Jews thought they were being very clever in coming up with similar things. Our scholars think they're being very clever in coming up with these things. But all it does is bring religion into disrepute. So with that, I take my leave of you with the prayer that whoever you are and wherever you may be, may Allah keep you safe and sound and free from harm. Assalamu alaikum, Khuda Hafiz, and goodbye.